For the last decade, the goal has been go viral. We've wanted millions of views, massive downloads, and to be famous to everyone. But in 2026, I honestly believe that the game has changed. With AI flooding our feeds and with algorithms burying our content, the smartest creators are leaving those major areas and building their own spaces. If you're feeling all of that, then today we're going to dive into why micro communities are one of the best marketing strategies that you can use to grow your audience in an authentic and strategic way. Welcome to Podcasting Unlocked, the show for purpose-driven podcasters. I'm Alicia Galati, founder of Galati Media, and I'm here to share actionable strategies to help you amplify your message and grow your audience. Hey friends, it's Alicia. I'm so excited. I say that every time for this podcast episode today. But this is something I've been feeling deep in my soul lately, and I'm actually implementing in my hobby podcast, We Read Smut. And what I love about having additional podcasts that are not in business or in the podcasting space is that I can test things out and try new things. And honestly, the landscape of 2026 in these podcast streets and the social media feels like a fair ground, so where it is ongoing traffic. It never really stops. There's tons of people out, or like a motion detector with some squirrels playing in front of it. It's kind of how this space feels, and it can feel really overwhelming. The internet is so noisy. Social media just feels like everyone's shouting at each other. And honestly, the algorithms keep burying so much of our content. In Q4 of 2025, I actually stopped posting about my podcast on social media for this exact reason, because I found that every time I talked about my podcast, I feel like I got negative content, engagement, and it was the only thing that I was actually posting about. So I was like, why am I doing this if it's not leading to results, if it's not leading to more clients, if it's not leading to me actually getting anything out of this, then why am I spending so much time and effort doing something that's not serving me? So I want us to rethink how we engage with our audience. Social media is like a town square. Think of it like that. It is the fairgrounds. It's loud. It's chaotic. You can't really hear anyone. You have to really get close and if you want to hear anyone and what they have to say. But I like to think of these micro communities or these private podcasts that we might be creating as our living room. It's more intimate, it's more inviting, and the real discussions and decisions are happening here. You don't necessarily need 10,000 listeners. If you have 200 people who trust you implicitly, that is a micro community. That is more than enough people. So let's go ahead and dig into why we might want to do this or how we might want to do this. There's a rise in AI generated content. We've got blogs, we've got videos, we've got short clips, completely AI generated videos. We're also seeing a rise in AI books, AI podcasts. I saw someone had said recently that you could create a full-on podcast interview between your own voice and another voice of them interviewing you for your own show. I'm not anti-tech or new tech, but this I feel, especially as podcasts being something that we're creating as humans that has our authentic voice, that is not gatekept in any way because of social media, where maybe we have to filter ourselves. Your podcast is a space where you can be authentically you. If we lose that part of podcasting, I honestly don't know what that is anymore. Is it even a podcast? It doesn't feel like it is. And I understand using AI to maybe switch a word. I've used that before where maybe I said a word incorrectly or I said the guest's name incorrectly. And so I use AI to recreate the audio for that part. But to have a full-on conversation that you actually didn't have, I don't feel like that's genuine for your audience. And it honestly creates a lot more skepticism with the content that we're creating. We don't really know what's real anymore. I saw something recently where it was a video of an author and he was like, hey, I write these books. I would love it if you followed me. I'm a little shy. These are the kinds of books I write. So if this is your thing, then cool. And if you're watching the video behind him, you can see that his standing mixer turns into a coffee maker halfway through the video. And I was like, what? So then how do you trust the books that this person is creating? Is this just an AI bot that is then trying to take something that is so human creating, like books, like love stories, like educational content, to then turn it into something that's not really real. So, with all that said, it feels like people are starting to retreat into spaces where they can see real humans. They can verify that the person who is creating it is actually a human. And I love this as a strategy for us as podcast hosts to create these micro communities. And the way that we speak, the cadence, audio is one of the, at least at the moment, most unlikely things that people are able to fake. There's something that you can tell when something is a fake AI voice. One of my kids has a online school program and they used an AI bot for one of the videos, and you could tell because the cadence was wrong. It didn't sound human in the cadence of how they were talking about it, which was frustrating because it was grammar and language arts. And it's like, no, that's something that you actually really need to understand cadence of, especially when we're talking about things like poetry. It's important. But it's really hard to fake, at least at this point. And so using your voice is such a great strategy for podcasts because you can say, hey, I love having this conversation. This is me. I'm real. I'm verified human. We are not putting in AI voices in here, and let your audience know that. But also take that to a different platform if you need to. So maybe that looks like having a private podcast, having a tight knit email list that is a safe space from the AI sludge, that is a place where your listeners can engage with you further. So one thing that I'm doing very strategically for We Read Smut is I'm doing an after dark micro community. It's going to have a private podcast that has behind the scenes of episodes. It's going to have early access to podcast episodes before they get aired for anyone else. It's going to have a place where people can get private book recommendations based on maybe, hey, they want a trope or they're looking for a specific type of book. And so they're able to do that. And the way that I'm pushing it is, hey, if you want this space to be AI free, if you want this space to be community led, if you want this space to not have sponsors, this is going to be the best way to support the podcast. And here are all the great resources that you get, along with quarterly Zoom chats where we can get together, we can discuss the books that we're enjoying, and we can connect on a deeper level there. So I think there's so many different things that we can do to increase this trust in a place where AI might feel like it's making it harder to gain the trust of our listeners. The next thing that I want us to consider is that we aren't just broadcasting, that this show is for anyone who has a business. Don't be vanilla. I want you to really showcase who you are as a human being, showcase the experiences that you're having, like the example I gave of the video I saw recently. And I gave an example of my kid who's homeschooled and a video program that we had. Those are things that an AI bot wouldn't be able to pull experiences from. And so by being very specific, I'm able to give those examples to not be background noise. Also, being broader, while we might think that it's going to attract all the people that we want, it's actually by being more specific that we're able to attract that 10% of people that are actually going to buy if them buying our services is an important part. I saw someone recently on LinkedIn. They said they were a web designer specifically for Christian coaches. And while I'm not religious and that might not be someone who I might want to engage with, what I loved about their bio is that they're so specific that they're going to attract the kinds of people that they want to attract. And that's going to serve them a lot better than saying, I do web design for everyone. So by being more specific, you're able to allow your listener, allow your potential viewer to self-select that they are there for a reason and that they are the right person to have in your space. So instead of marketing for everyone, instead it should be marketing for tech startups or marketing for tech startups under 1 million or between 1 million and 3 million, right? Like anything that's going to make it more specific. I also want you to consider that if you are someone who is wanting to generate income for your podcast, having 100 listeners in a micro community that pay $15 a month is always better than having 10,000 listeners who don't pay anything. And that is something that I'm working on for my stuff and We Read Smut is that my goal is 400 subscribers who are paid subscribers. I use Substack as the place to house my micro community. And so having 400 subscribers who are paid subscribers at $5 a month, that's $2,000 a month that can help me with my podcast, that can help me sustain the show and keep it going. So it's important that when we think about how we are creating content or how we're creating these micro communities, that we're being really strategic. So how do we build these micro communities? I've given a few examples, but I'm going to reiterate some of them. The first thing I want you to do is be really strategic about where you are housing your community. Facebook groups might work for some people and they might not work for others. LinkedIn groups might work for some people and they might not work for others. An Instagram channel might work for some and it might not work for others. Substack might work for some and it might not work for others. For me, Substack is working really well. That is a platform that in the last year, I've gotten over 10,000 subscribers, meaning email subscribers to my channel. That doesn't always equate people who are listening to the podcast, but the goal there is to really just continue to nurture the audience and create that after dark kind of community where people can pay me money for my podcast to get early access to things. And so that is a space that's working for me. That might not work for the next person. So I think it's really important that we are focusing on where it works and also considering our own capacity. This is something that I'm going to drive home again and again and again, that if your capacity to house a Facebook group feels daunting, then a newsletter might be your best bet where you don't have to manage the comments. You can simply have a two-way connection with your audience back and forth individually as people ask questions or need replies. Another thing you can do is have a private podcast, create a RSS feed that is for your clients or for your VIPs or for this micro community. Patreon is also another place that you could do if you're a creator who's maybe writing or creating art. I'm a subscriber to a few Patreons, and I really enjoy that platform for those as well, especially for the authors that I follow. You can create, like I said, a newsletter where you're having that two-way conversation. Another idea is a pop-up community. If you are someone who is trying to figure out if a community is going to work long-term for you, move people to a Slack channel or a Discord or something that is going to make sense for you specifically and test it out and see how it feels. And then from there, you can say, hey, if you want to stay on in this community, here's how you can pay to be part of it, or here it is for free, right? You get to decide what that looks like. So let's go ahead and recap. The problem here is that trust needs to happen in podcasting. We need to be creating these micro communities or these private podcast spaces for our audience. We need to show that they can trust us beyond our voice. Next is to make sure that we're not just talking broadly, that we are being very specific in who it is that we want to communicate with and the kinds of people we want to attract, because it's going to attract the right people and it's going to attract the paying people. And then finally, build a space that works for you, whatever that might look like. Again, I'm not going to say you should or have to do this. That's never going to be something I'm going to say here. But if you are someone who is trying to figure out which space makes the most sense for you, because I have experience in all of these, I would highly recommend booking a free consultation. Let's go ahead and chat through what it is that your goals are, how you're trying to achieve them, and I should be able to direct you in the right space, as well as understanding what your capacity is. You can go to helpmypod.com, book that free 20-minute consultation. Let's talk about what it is that you're struggling with, and I can help guide you in the right direction. We can work together, or I can send you on your way with some free resources. If there's one thing I want you to take from this, that is stop trying to get more followers this week. Stop trying to go viral this week. I want you to get closer to the audience that you already have. How can you engage with them on a deeper level? Send them a private video message, whatever that looks like, to get more engagement with your listeners or the people who you want to engage with your content. That is going to help you. And if you're someone who enjoys romance, you can find me on Substack. We'll make sure we have the link for that in the show notes as well. All right, until next time, happy podcasting.